One thing to note for newer versions of V-Ray, and I'm using V-Ray 3.5.04 here, which I think is probably the latest version, or close to it at least. One thing to note with these newer versions is that they've switched away from some of the rendering methods I showed you in the older videos, and now it's switched more towards progressive rendering. They've developed that quite a bit more in later years. And what progressive does is you basically set a minimum maximum subdivision. By default it's 1 in 100, which is great. And then you can just set like a render time and a noise threshold. And what it will do is just get better and better as time goes on. So right now it's set to render for 1 minute and just give me whatever the best image is for 1 minute worth of rendering. Okay, so it's doing progressive rendering right now. We're not using the automatic kind of real-time rendering version right now. Now it's actually using up all the CPUs and taking its time to render for 1 minute. Okay, it's on pass 13. It will just continue to do passes and refine itself over and over and over again. Okay, so this is a pretty cool way to render. Specifically because you can just set the time limit, which is nice, and just say, you know, I want it to render for this amount of time, give me whatever quality I can get after 1 minute. Or you can basically just let it go until it's got the quality that you want, which is pretty cool too. So you have a minimum amount of quality you want, and you just let it render until it gets to that point, and then it'll stop and be ready for you. Okay, so this is a cool way of rendering, and it's kind of what V-Ray has moved towards. Okay, so it took 33 passes, it went for 1 minute, and you get that, which is a pretty nice rendering. And by no means do I have some sort of supercomputer here. Okay, so this is a pretty normal computer, and that's what it gave me. So that's great. The GI settings are different than I've showed in the past too. By default, it's brute force and light cache. The thing about brute force is it is not faking anything. It's what they call unbiased. So it is lighting things very accurately. But what that does is add a lot more noise to your scene. So the irradiance map and light cache method that I've showed you before, the irradiance map is faking a lot of things basically. Sorry, not the irradiance map, but the light cache. Yeah, so the irradiance map light cache combo that I've showed you before. They are faking things and kind of blending some things together in order to make the lighting look accurate. Unbiased rendering, brute force, is just not faking anything, not cutting any corners, just giving you the lighting as it would physically be, but it has a lot more noise that way, and it might take a little longer to refine. In the past, brute force has been so much longer that it's been not really a good option, but using this method with progressive and brute force, you just wait till the noise is cleared up to your satisfaction, and then you're good to go. So this is different. If you want to go back to the way I've showed rendering in the past, which is also a possibility, you go to V-Ray here and go to the image sampler, and you would change it from progressive to bucket. Okay, and then here under bucket image sampler, you could again use your min and max subdivisions and set it up basically like I've showed you in the past. Okay, so you can still render like that, and if you render now, you'll see that it'll do your passes, and then you'll see buckets and things will start appearing. So this will probably take about a minute as well and have about the same amount of quality, to be honest. So those are two different ways to render. You can compare them side by side, see which one you like, see which one's faster for you. Progressive is nice because you see the whole building instead of seeing buckets appearing. So even though it's a little bit noisy, you can see what it's going to look like very quickly, and then it just refines from there. So that's kind of cool. And then, like I showed you, there's this interactive rendering, which just updates every time you make a change. And that uses the same progressive method as I just showed you, not buckets. Okay, so those are different ways to render now. You can still do it the same way we've been showing, or you can do it the way that they kind of set up as default now. And either one works. I have mostly adjusted my workflow now to the progressive rendering.